Hello and welcome to our PCS Grades weekly webinar. Today we are going to be chatting about tiny troops and sports for older military kids. I'm Lizanne Lightfoot. I'm the senior content editor at PCS Grades. I'm a mom of 5 wonderful military kids who have moved probably too many times. I'm a Marine Corps spouse and a published author, and so excited to be talking about this topic during the month of the military child with my wonderful co-host, Tessa Robinson.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here today. I'm Tessa Robinson. I'm a guest content creator for PCS Grades. I have 2 kids, which feels like 5 sometimes, Lizanne. I still don't know how you do it. That's a separate webinar for a separate day. And I am a huge sports fan, grew up playing all sorts of athletics. I'm so excited to have our guest here today. Amy Schweizer, welcome to the program. We're so pumped you're here. So we're going to start off with what we like to call a softball question, which feels like an extra sports pun today. Don't worry, I've got lots of dad jokes coming your way all afternoon. First softball question, tell us about yourself, your time as a mil spouse, and your experience with sports.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me, guys. I am currently at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. My husband is an active duty Marine. He just hit 20 years this last fall, so we're excited about that. I have 3 little boys who are 10, 7, and 5. Definitely keep me on my toes, like you said. With 5, Lizanne, I have no idea. Like, it just seems impossible. Sometimes I can't do 3, but so we have 3 little boys, and I'm actually originally from Illinois, and my sports story, well, especially specifically with soccer, actually didn't start until I was 16. That was the first time I had ever touched a soccer ball in my entire life, because in central Illinois and really around the world at that time, some years ago, youth sport or girls soccer wasn't really a big thing at all, because soccer itself was just becoming popular. So we didn't have any girls soccer. And so I was on the basketball team, played other sports, and they came to us, our high school, and said, "Hey, we're going to start soccer. We need some of you to play." And we're like, "Sure, why not?" And so literally first time I ever touched a soccer ball was when I was a sophomore in high school. And it just happened to be the thing I loved the most, the sport I loved the most, and the sport I was best at. So I was able to play through high school, through college, and I got to play in the WUSL for a league for a season after college. So it was really, really cool. But so although personally soccer didn't start until high school, I was involved with sports since I can remember. My whole family, football, baseball, track, just anything. My parents played rec sports. Even we were younger, they were still on baseball and softball leagues. So it's always been a part of my life, my immediate family and my extended family. When it's kind of funny, when we get together for Christmas and stuff, we'll rent out the Boys and Girls Club in our hometown. And so everyone comes dressed nice. We eat, we do all that. Everyone has their play clothes or their gym clothes. We all change, and then it's basketball, kickball, dodgeball. I mean, it's just the best time. So sports is so much embedded as part of my life, for sure.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, I think we all need to know, what position in soccer did you play?
Yeah, I was a left back. So I'm pretty small. I know you can't quite see it from this. So at first they're like, "You're going to play forward because you're fast." But I didn't have any ball skills, or I never touched the ball. So, I mean, man, I worked at it. But being fast as a defender, it definitely has its advantages. So that's what I was.
We are so excited to have you on. Before we go any further, Lizanne, why don't you tell them about the awesome giveaway we have and how folks can enter to win?
Yes, you guys are going to be hearing a lot more about Amy's Tiny Troops program as we go throughout the webinar. And I think you're already getting some love in the comments from people participating in Tiny Troops around the country. So PCS Grades has sponsored 3 one-month scholarships for military children to join Tiny Troops for free for a month. And we're going to be giving away 3 of those scholarships at the end of the webinar. Plus, each winner is going to receive Amy's book, which I definitely want to hear some more about. There it is. It's called I Will Be Okay, Adventures of a Military Kid. So we're going to be diving into Amy's experience with sports, with writing, with apparently all the things. Can't wait to get to all of that. Just want to remind you all, as you're tuning in, tell us where you're coming from in the country. If you have military kids, if they play sports. We want to hear all of your questions for Amy, and definitely ask us about the programs that she offers. By the end of the webinar, we are going to be drawing 3 winners from our Wheel of Names, and they receive the 1 month of Tiny Troop Soccer plus Amy's book, I Will Be Okay, Adventures of a Military Kid.
I like, Suzanne, that you added, we're going to be diving into that, because as a college diver, I appreciate the diving reference. So we've got a softball reference already. We've got diving. We're going to hear lots about soccer. Keep the sports puns coming.
All right, I'll see what I can do to get us off to a running start. And
you guys are good.
Let's just get right into it. We've talked about Tiny Troops. I want to hear more about the creation of this program specifically. What is Tiny Troops? How did it come about? And what inspired you to create this program for military kids?
Yeah, so at Tiny Troops, we are building a global community of active and healthy kids who are equipped to deal with the stressors of military life and to make some friends along the way. So it actually started kind of have to give you guys a backstory of me. So I'm very sports involved. My entire life, what I wanted to be or do was to work in the community relations department with a professional team. So giving back has always, it's just a part of my DNA. I have always served, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, all that stuff. And I wanted to do that in the professional sports arena. So my master's degree is in sport management, and I happened to be working for the Boys and Girls Club, and I was at a job fair. And my table happened to be next to the Marine Corps recruiting booth table. And so my soon to be husband was the recruiter at the time. And so we exchanged phone numbers. And on our first date, I said, well, just so you know, I'm headed to Jacksonville, not North Carolina, or I'm at Jacksonville, Florida, to work with the Jaguars. So I'd already been down there, chatted with them, and said, it was a couple months thing. And he said, oh, well, just, I'm PCSing, which who knew what that meant? PCSing, right? To California. And we're like, great. Fast forward a year, ladies, and I am in Camp Pendleton, California, and with no job at all, let alone a job in no job at all. And so that was a very, very rough transition for me, because we got married later in life. So we were both 28 when we got married. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And my whole life was always, if I get married, that will just be a bonus to whatever I have going on, right? So this was a big switch. And then becoming a dependent and all, my friends and family laughed so hard at that, because they're like, oh, just the wrong person to give that title to, right? So anyway, so it was just rough. And so we ended up having my first child, and we moved over to Okinawa, and I was going crazy. My son's going crazy. I'm pregnant with my second son at this point. And I'm really, wondering, I don't know if this lifestyle is for me. Like, I'm not working at all. I'm in this foreign country that I never planned to be in. He's not even around. Like, I have 2 kids, which I also didn't really plan on kids. So like, what is happening, right? And so I had a lot of work to do within that time period. But another spouse was actually doing some soccer lessons, and she said, hey, do you want to do this with me? And I said, no, no, not really. But then I thought, my son needs something to do, because back then, a lot of the programs started at age 5. So there's nothing to do with those little ones in the spouse who's at home. And so I thought, he needs to get out and be able to be active and socialize. I need to get out and be able to active and socialize. And so I started those lessons, and then it just grew more and more. People had that same problem where they needed community and physical activity. And so then that spurred my passion for military spouse employment, because I had to hire other spouses to help me at that. The other gal had gone. And so then it just kind of spiraled. And so we were in Okinawa. And then as my coaches started PCSing, I thought, wait, there's a need for this. Like, don't get a job yet. Like, just hold on a second. And so that's how Tiny Troops developed. And so we serve ages 2 through 5 now, and we are in 17 states and 3 countries.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Amy, I know for me, I mean, growing up, sports was such a huge part of my life. It still is. I mean, I coach my daughter's basketball team. I still play in all these, I like to call them has-been leagues, where everybody who used to be a lot softer and a lot tinier. But I know what an important role it played in my life. Why do you think sports are so integral, especially for our military children?
It gives you an instant community and place to belong. So it doesn't really matter what other factors are in your life, rich, poor, military, not. Doesn't matter because you're there with one common goal. You're having fun. You really can just be a kid at that point. And so all those stressors and all the dad's gone and I see this on the news and, all of those things just kind of wash away. And it's, again, instant friends, instant community. You don't even really have to work on it. You're just like, oh, we're friends. We're on the same team. So it's so critical to get kids involved with any extracurricular, any sport that they're moving, getting their heart rate up, because we know not only is it benefiting their physical body, which kids these days definitely need, but also it's boosting their mental and emotional health. And so we know, especially as little kids get older, those mental health factors, ours are higher than the general population.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting the right words out, but it's so important that they're getting this physiological need of their bodies that's also boosting their emotional state.
It is. Sure. It's huge. I think you're so right. I coach, like I said, I coached 5th grade girls basketball, and 10 and 11-year-old girls have a lot going on, but man, they step on the basketball court and it all melts away. It has to, because you have to play together. So awesome.
And my kids also played soccer at Camp Pendleton, I think just after you had been there. So you had already kind of planted that Tiny Troop seed in the community. And it was definitely helpful during deployments. When Dad was away, I noticed that they needed that father figure. They needed that sense of community that you talked about, just that adult leadership that was someone besides me, because I got tired of being everything at all times to everyone in the house. So I know that sports are so helpful for continuity and support during deployments, but let's talk specifically about PCSing. What is it about sports that you think helps military kids adjust after those PCS moves?
Yeah, well, it's just something familiar to them. Everything has changed. We don't have friends. We don't have our family. We don't have the same house. Nothing is the same. And so, but soccer can be the same. We always say with Tiny Troops, if we know they're moving somewhere, I can say, oh, I know Coach Tessa, you're going to have so much fun. She's my friend. You're going to see her when you get there. And we've had so many parents tell us, like, it helps so much. Or I didn't even know you had a Tiny Troops there. And we drove by and my kid recognized that blue shirt. And so we had to get them enrolled right away. So it just gives them the familiarity, like they know what they're doing. They've been in this environment, they've been on the field, they know what they're doing. And I will say though, it's hard being the new kid, right? Even as an adult. So I still play in those leagues as well, Tessa. So I've played in Hawaii and I've played and those women, a lot of them have grown up there, lived there. So they've played together in these leagues for like 5, 10, 15 years. And so I get right back in that spot where I'm like, I'm the new kid, and you really just have to like, hey, I'm Amy, and just fit yourself in, right? And it is awkward and it's hard for me as an adult. So I can only imagine as a child, but I feel like a smaller sports team may be less intimidating than the whole new school. So it's a good first step.
For sure. And you've got Sarah here in the comments is emphasizing that. She said that it's great that our kids can keep in the program even when they PCS. I love that familiarity because the MWR sports programs on bases are inconsistent. Some places they're more active than others. Some places they allow different ages than others. So it's very cool to see some continuity and something predictable in their lives that they can recognize.
Yeah, and even my oldest son, Roman, so he played Tiny Troops. He started, and everyone's like, he's such a good dribbler. And I'm like, oh, because he started when he was 3 in Tiny Troops. But so he's played in Okinawa, everywhere we've moved, Hawaii. I guess he was born in Cup. So Okinawa and Hawaii. And even now he'll say, well, remember when I played in Hawaii and that friend I had, and remember, so he remembers those things. He can't necessarily remember everyone's names, but he remembers that he was a part of team and a part of something. And so that's what stuck out to him. And so having that, just being a part of that sports team, whether it's the same one or not, our kids, I always say, they don't get to grow up on the same team with the same kids, looking back. Even now, if someone posts on Facebook, like, look at this picture from 30 years ago of us on the T-ball, so they don't get to have that, but being a part of team gives them something to remember.
Absolutely. And I think too, I mean, it's so great for the littles, of course, and it's also so great for adults. And so I would encourage anybody who has played a sport before, go do those little volleyball leagues and tennis leagues and learn new skills. Or if sports aren't your thing, find your thing that you can meet new people. It's a great way to do it. I do want to talk a little bit, Amy, about, we've talked about the tinies, the littles, and the 3-year-olds, and that's incredible. I know I moved in 8th grade, 2 weeks into 8th grade, which is a terrible time to move. And for me, the way that I got involved and the way that I met people at my new school was on the soccer field. So I want to talk a little bit about those older kids who have a little bit harder battle to fight, remaining consistently involved on sports teams when they move. What advice do you have for middle or high school students who are heavily involved in sports and want to keep playing?
Yeah, so it's important to look for those camps that they hold throughout the year, because a lot of times, again, you might not have consistent playing, or you're moving during season or something like that. So a lot of places, a lot of rec leagues, there's really in most cities, you should be able to find a rec league of some sort through either the actual city, go to their website, or YMCAs, Boys and Girls Clubs. A lot of places have different camps that you can be involved in, even if you aren't on a team there. So I would say definitely try to get involved in those camps when they have them, just to stay involved and active, and then look for the recreational leagues. So unfortunately, a lot of times the older kiddos have to play down a lot. They're like, but I was playing at this level in California. Mm-hmm. And I actually have a friend there now, and it's the level here of soccer in North Carolina is different than the level at California. And so that's a big adjustment for them. But her advice was, it's important for you to stay active, to keep your skill up. So when you're looking at college or when you're looking at something else, so is it maybe as competitive as you were playing? No, but are you still getting touches on the ball and staying involved? So I think, unfortunately, for our kiddos, there's a lot of mindset work that has to happen in that. So, but just to continue encouraging them to participate, even if it doesn't look like what it did.
Got it. And I do want to hear from our audience, if you have those older kids, especially middle school, especially high school, if there are sports questions that you have or challenges that you've run into because of PCS moves, because of anything throughout their military journey, we want to hear your questions and concerns and see if there's other resources out there to address that. So Amy, just to follow up on that same topic, are you aware of any resources or national programs, or is there any way to kind of certify your level at one location where a coach can sign off that, hey, I verify that this kid was playing here and was eligible for these scholarships? Is there any way to keep that continuity when we move?
Unfortunately, Lizanne, not that I know of. That's one area that definitely could use some improvement. Now, I will say, though, definitely be in close contact with your child's coach that you're leaving and the one you're coming to. I think, you're not making an excuse, but you're letting them know, hey, we're a military family. We're going to be 2 weeks late or whatever it is, just so they know what's coming. And 9 times out of 10, coaches, even at the higher high school levels, will completely understand that, will make a bit of a concession to welcome your child. And then you can put those coaches in contact. If you have a good coach, we're all out there for the betterment of the child and giving them the opportunity to play. So most of us would go above and beyond to make that connection and make sure we're on the same page, and they can give you, this is kind of the history, the stats a little bit. This is where strengths and weaknesses. So formal program, no, but you could ask your coach, and I'm sure you could get that accomplished.
And I guess
that's one of those things too that's really important for the parents to be able to advocate for their kids of, especially if summertime moves, a lot of tryouts are over the summer, a lot of camps of incoming teams are over the summer. So reaching out early and saying, I've got a rising sixth grader or a rising, sophomore in high school. What can we do in the off season? How can we, try out, make sure there's a spot available if you miss tryouts. I know I like I said, I moved in 8th grade. We moved between sophomore and junior high school. I missed tryouts for, I think it was volleyball, and was still able to do like a private tryout and make the team. So anything you can do as parents to advocate for your kids coming in. I know with diving, I dove up because I was better suited for the 17 and under age group as a 14-year-old than I was for the 14 and under. So, if there's opportunities to play up, I'd say go for it. It definitely helps you grow. I didn't win a lot, but it was a great opportunity.
But that's also growing moments there, right? Learning how to.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you have a comment here from April saying it'd be great if the upper schools would all be supportive of our kids with respect to sports. In her case, they've reached out to schools early with concerns, and the schools have been supportive so far.
Good.
And I was wondering, when you're talking about moving, in the middle of the season, or you've just missed tryouts, I know from an academic standpoint, if our kids move in the middle of the school year, there are certain national laws and state laws that say they have the obligation to be placed in the appropriate classrooms, or they have the obligation to make up testing. Is there any type of state law or legal recourse that a child would have if they've missed the tryouts, or if they've been not accepted onto the varsity team because the coach hasn't had an opportunity to see them play before?
Again, and I did a little research for this, and I didn't find anything. I didn't come across anything. And so this is one of those things where military kids are getting the short end of the stick. I hope that it's going to change in years, but unfortunately, this isn't even though this is a major topic and something they should be focused on, this isn't something that they're focused on. I think we are just getting those laws within the last few years, making the continuity between schools and schools, right? And transcripts for the kids. So I think it's a slow coming thing. And in all honesty, Lizanne, by the time you pursued legal action, seasons over, and it's probably started, just kind of not getting started on the right foot in that season. So I would definitely say, reach out to the school, reach out to the coaches, exhaust all the resources there, and really hope, like she just mentioned, the commenter, that the school will be willing to work with you. Most of the time they are.
I think too, if you miss the tryouts, you can always ask the coach, can my son practice with the team, recognizing he's not, going to play in the games or whatever. Is there an opportunity, just like you said, just to get touches on the ball, just to keep your, foot in the door if they've missed tryouts? I think that's always it's always worth an ask. Can they just practice with the team, for sure?
Definitely worth an ask. And then again, there's so many leagues around now where you would probably be able to find something within a good driving distance. So whether it's AAU or whether it's an ODP program or the YMCA, or just the rec league, or some of them have competitive leagues. So there's lots of teams around. So again, may not be what you're hoping for, but there should be some opportunity to play.
I love that. I know that we all get tired of being resilient and flexible sometimes, but just instead of saying, well, I guess it's not going to work this season, I have to take a year off and lose a lot of progress. That idea of being creative, searching for another answer, seeking out the opportunities that are available, I think that's a really good way to approach it.
Yeah, another resource I just thought of, if there's a college in your area, so a lot of those team host camp over the summer, or actually even throughout their off season, so maybe spring, maybe fall, depending. So they have opportunities, and especially if it was a college you were looking at going to or attending, playing for, that's definitely a good way to go.
Awesome. Well, Amy, you do have some Tiny Troops participants here in the comments. We've got Sarah tuning in, and Julie also said that they were able to do Tiny Troops in Okinawa. So I would love to hear, do you have any favorite success stories, or really any story that you want to share from the families that are involved in Tiny Troops?
Yeah, so it's funny. One of the biggest things we get is, wow, my child really learned how to be in a group setting, because for a lot of them, especially pre or post are we post-pandemic or whatever? But a lot of them haven't really had any social opportunities, and so they have come out and they're like, oh my gosh, she listens to you, like she does, like I couldn't believe this. I didn't think this would work. So we get a lot of those social benefits that we hear a lot about. The physical ones are, so we are a developmental program. So what I mean by that is we really focus on all the skills that the kids will need to successfully move into the traditional recreational leagues. And we do it up to age 5 for a reason, because at 5, I do believe, moving beyond 5 years old, I think they need to be in the traditional league play. But before that, their little tiny minds honestly can't comprehend it. And so, and it's funny, as a parent, I can totally expect so much out of my kids, right? But then as a coach, I'm like, guys, no, they don't know. So we have to say, like, when I say go, but not until I say go. You're going to go stand on that side next to an orange, so you can't say we're going to pick up our ball, because they're going to go pick up their ball, right? When I say go, with your feet. So we really truly laid the foundations of gross motor skills, listening skills, working within a group setting, and then with an introduction to soccer. So we really focus on dribbling so that when the kids move up, they are ready for that. So to your point, Lizanne, we've had a lot of parents say, well, not a lot, but some say, well, I didn't know how red light, green light had anything to do with soccer. Why is my kid not playing soccer? Because they're thinking, I'm going to go and see my kid play the traditional game of soccer, right? We're like, well, let's start with like not falling over when we run and on the ground. So, there's these things that as soccer players, so all of our coaches are soccer players. I call it soccer integrity. I don't hire anyone who hasn't played soccer, because I know if we have these proper foundations, what it's going to produce later. And so we've had a lot of parents say, oh my gosh, like my kid is now head and shoulders above everyone. Like they can sit and listen to the coach. They're dribbling and they're comfortable with the ball at their foot. So they're able to go and make those higher level decisions on the field because they're older. And I'm like, yes, that's what it is. So we've seen so many, we get videos and texts from parents whose kiddos are older now all the time. It's so great.
That's awesome. We do have an audience question here from Stacey Vance. Are there any opportunities for kids with special needs?
Yeah, so we have actually done training. My administrative staff has done training with the chairperson of Top Soccer, which is the outreach program for children with special needs, and that's through U.S. Youth Soccer. So we have been trained in that, and we actually did try to host Top Soccer sessions a couple years ago, and it didn't really take off, but ultimately, I would love for that to be at all of our locations, because I want all of our military kids and all the community kids to be able to feel a part of a team, no matter their ability. So we welcome all kids at our sessions. Our coaches are trained in different techniques that are able to assist kids. Now, we will say if there was, if we needed a little extra help, we might ask mom or dad to join us just to give us that assistance so their kiddo can have support. But we do the best we can. If your child's able to participate, we do the best we can to incorporate them. So your opportunity is with us. Yeah.
Amy, I just want to clone you and put you in all 50 states.
I would love to do that, Tessa. I'd love to do that.
You're so passionate about it. So I want a little more information from you about the structure of Tiny Troops. How many teams do you have? Is it like a 6-week camp, or is it an ongoing session through the year? And how our audience can get involved with troops in their area?
Yeah, so we actually, speaking to what we were talking about earlier about kids missing out on signups or tryouts, so ours is done differently. We actually do month-to-month registration, and specifically for that purpose, because we know we don't want kids to be PCSing and now you miss signups, so you can't play anything for 6 more months, or you're going home for a month of leave. So mom and dad don't want to pay for 3 months when you're going to miss a whole month. So now you just can't play. So we have it on a month to month basis, where if you can make January, but you can't do February, but you can play in March, and then you move somewhere else, we have it in April, great. So we have it set up so you can join us when you can make it. We want to be accessible when our kids can make it. So we do that also because of the age of our kids. This is a small factor too. We don't want parents to be committed to a 3-month, $200 program where they're trying to force a 2-year-old to go because the 2-year-old screaming their head off, So that does happen sometimes. You just have to give them a little break. But, sometimes it's just not for them yet. And so we don't want to force that situation. Being out there, we're there to build a love for being outdoors, a love for play. And then, you have the second level benefits of being healthy. You're setting the tone for exercise for their entire life. So, sorry, you're right. I get passionate and just sidetracked on that. So,
no apologies needed. This is amazing.
So we have monthly registration periods. Our registration almost always starts on the 15th of the month for the following month. So right now we're in registration for May. So you can go to our website, tinytroopsoccer.com, check out click your region, and you can see where we're located in that region. Our setup, just to go over that real fast. So we actually have 3 sessions per month. So it's 1 per week. And then the last week is reserved for makeup days. During those, it's instructional drills, fun. Drills is the wrong word. Activities. We're doing fun. We're animals. We're part of our side note, guys, part of our interview process, our coaches have to read The Book with No Pictures by BJ Novak. If you haven't ever heard of it, go check it out. So they have to read that to us because we have to know that they're able to be silly and fun and not care that there are other adults around, like you're there for the kids. So, good gracious. So we have three sessions per month. That's what they get each month. And then, hopefully they continue with this.
And Amy, are the sessions always on a military base? Is it off base, or where would I expect to find Tiny Troops meetings?
Yeah, so most all of them are off base, but just at a local park that's very in close proximity to the military base. I'm sure you guys have experience with that. That's a whole separate podcast of working with the military on a military base that I'd be happy to come back and chat about sometime. But, so most of them we partner with either a local recreation department or even a school to hold the sessions there. But we always make them as close to base as possible so that it's easy for our military kiddos. But then it's also fun because we get to bring in the community and we start to forge those friendships between military family and civilians, which is beneficial to the entire family.
How many locations are you in right now?
Yeah, so we've run upwards of 50 locations this month. I think we have 30, and that varies a lot. One, due to weather. So East Coast takes off winter break. Some of our southern states take off a couple months for the summer. So it fluctuates. Also because our coaching staff are primarily military spouses or dependents. So, the PCS cycle is ever flowing. And so we're always trying to, if someone's leaving, we do our best to get someone else in, but that doesn't always happen. So yeah, but this month, I think we're around 30 some.
And one more follow-up question on that. I just have so many questions and I just want to ask them all to you.
Yes.
How, if let's say I move and there's not a Tiny Troops in my area, how do I go about establishing one? Can I contact you and say, hey, Amy, I want this to be here? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, so that's actually typically how we grow, Tessa. So we have parents who are like, we're moving. You don't have one. What are we going to do? We need to start one. And so fortunately, we've almost always worked remotely. So our whole staff is literally across the world. And so our process is pretty tight right now. So we are able to pick up and start in any location. We provide equipment, we provide training, all that stuff. So yeah, you could just reach out to us at info@tinytroopsoccer.com and let us know you're interested. We do the interview process and all that and hopefully get up and running. And I want to say, so our staff is primarily military spouses, but we are open to anyone to join us. We have active duty members, we have some vets, we have some civilians. So I always say, doesn't matter your military affiliation, as long as you love kids, you love soccer, you're able to show that on the field, then you're welcome with us.
I'm so amazed by all that you're doing. And here's what I think is incredible. In addition to all of these programs, all of these families that you're supporting, and these coaches that you are training, Amy, you are also a published author. So please tell me more about this book that you wrote for our military kids called I Will Be Okay, Adventures of a Military Kid.
Yeah, well, I feel kind of silly saying I'm a published author compared to you, but
It's a cool club. Let's all hang out together.
You can say that, Tessa. Yeah, so I wrote this book, and it was actually very simple to write because it's my kid's life, right? So the whole premise behind it, shocker here, is the importance of getting your kids involved in some sort of physical activity, whether it be soccer or not, but to help their mental, emotional, physical states, but also to help pass the time. I think, Lizanne, you had said it helped my son during deployment because he had that community. Well, it's also just something to look forward to. And this it takes you through daddy's gone and deploying, and mom's sad and I'm sad, and mom says I'm starting soccer, but I'm like, whoa, I've never done this and I don't know anyone, like I don't want to go, right? But they go, have fun, meet friends. And one of the pages showed how they're counting down time on the calendar. So as a military spouse, I even during deployment, sometimes I'm like, okay, that TV show's on Monday. Woo, that's one more week, right? And next week is one more Monday. Just something simple, right, to look forward to. And so this being involved in some sort of activity also helps pass that time for the child, but also for the parent during the spouse behind during deployment. And also get you out of the house, right? And doing something which everyone needs, kind of gets you out of your rut, and you make friends. We've had so many parents tell us that other Tiny Troops parents were the first friends or people they met at their new duty station. And then they're still lifelong friends, or even our coaches. Sometimes they're new and Tiny Troops is the first thing they're doing. And so they meet parents, other adults, and they make friends that way. So I Will Be Okay, Adventures of a Military Kid. There's just a fun picture. We talk about soccer, we talk about Tiny Troops, but the premise is, as adults, it is our job, it is our responsibility to get our kids involved in some sort of extracurricular to give them the extra support of everything we've talked about today.
Yes, so cool. And I love how you emphasize the importance of just that structure and routine that kids thrive on. Any kind of repeated activity and predictability and that sense of order and control in their life. So Sarah here was commenting about Tiny Troops. I like that it's year round. It keeps some structure if school kids are on break, or like you mentioned, if you're moving in the middle of the year or whatever else is going on in their lives, at least Tiny Troops is there. So that is so exciting. We also had Courtney commenting here that she needs to get a copy of your book. Courtney, the good news is we're giving away 3 copies of Amy's book here at the end of the webinar. Keep on asking us your questions and commenting, but it is also available on Amazon. Is there anywhere else that you wanted to send them to purchase it?
I think I do have a website. The website is adventuresofamilitaryKid.com. That has some free printables and things, and kind of tells a little bit about the book. Like we all know, the dandelion is the flower of the military child. So in the book, there's a hidden dandelion on every page to find. So it has some details and a color printable you could find there. But the easiest way to purchase is through Amazon for sure.
So cool. And who did the illustrations, Amy? I didn't see that.
Yeah, so this is a business tip. I know we're kind of not talking about business, but so there is a website, a service called Upwork.com. So as an entrepreneur, it's a very good resource to use if you have different projects. So I actually found my illustrator through there, and it was a great relationship. He did a wonderful job.
So cool. It looks great. I'm excited to check it out. Super excited to give away 3 copies to our viewers today, which we're going to be getting ready to do soon.
Okay.
But not quite yet. You guys have a little bit more time to give us some questions, give us some comments. Amy obviously is very passionate about our military kids and about sports. So Amy, we are going to invite you to be part of our rapid fire question.
It's
you
my
have.
favorite. It's the
Oh,
best.
okay.
Well, this is not a rapid fire question, but I do have to know, was the Monday night TV show you were referring to The Bachelor? Because it seems like that is always on Monday nights.
It wasn't. It wasn't. I've only watched one season of that. I'll admit I have.
Okay, rapid fire questions. Amy, who is your favorite soccer player?
I would say Mia Hamm, because she was really the first female soccer player that was thrust into the spotlight. And I always remember those commercials, the Gatorade commercials with her and Michael Jordan. That anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. And she says, "No, I can't. Yes, I can." Whatever it is. But so one, she was the first one I really saw, that was out in the public eye, but also just even that commercial, right? Just like women empowerment, like we can do things too. Like this is cool. So I definitely have to say her for sure.
I like that. All right, Amy, what is the toughest lesson that you've had to learn through sports?
Man. Actually, this kind of relates to business too, but it's the way I communicate with people. So I was a captain of my college team, and I had another captain once after practice kind of pull me aside and we were chatting, and she says, "Well, the way you say things, people aren't responding to that." And I kind of laugh now because I'm super like moto, I can yell, and I married a Marine, right? Like, so I guess I should have seen that foreshadowing. But at first I was angry about it. I was like, how could they be upset with me? I'm a great player in this thing. But I carry that lesson with me to this day, that it doesn't matter how I prefer to communicate. I have to take into account my audience and my teammates and the people who work for me, how they communicate. And I still struggle with it sometimes, but it's always a reminder that I remember constantly in my leadership journey.
Love that.
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many lessons that kids and adults learn through sports.
Mhm.
Sure. Amy, what's your most memorable Tiny Troops moment?
There's so many cute ones. This one's pretty funny, you guys, but I remember it. So at the end, we were saying, we always do our cheer, 1, 2, 3, go Tiny Troops. And depending on where you are, like if you're at MCBH in Hawaii, you have to say it loud enough so the sharks can hear you, or wherever it is. So we'll go Tiny Troops. And one little kid raises a hand. He's like, Coach Amy. And I'm like, yeah, buddy. Because I was like, everyone needs to get together. And he's like, Coach Amy. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, is this about me farting? Like, no, honey, we're not talking about. No, this is. Let's just put your hand in and do our cheers. So I always remember that. Like, it's the funniest thing ever. And I have another one. So this isn't a Tiny Troops one, but when I was in high school, I volunteered for our local rec league, and so I coached a season there. And at the end of one of the games we won, my little kids, they were 6, I think. Walking through the line, I hear "too bad for you, too bad for you," and I'm like, "Oh no, like we can't say that." So we had to go have a sportsmanship talk after that. But so now it's even kind of a family joke if something happens, like between my parents and I, we're like, "Too bad for you." So those are 2 pretty silly ones, but they make me laugh every time I think about it, and I love it. You get some funny stuff in there.
Kids are hilarious sometimes. But I know we talked earlier about our older military kids, and I want to be honest about some of the struggles that our kids are facing. And some military kids are dealing with an injury or something that delays your entire season and really messes up your routine. So, Amy, what advice would you give a kid, or military or otherwise, who's overcoming an injury?
This is so hard, especially as an athlete who wants to move and be active and get back into things, right? You have to take the time to rest. You have to give it the time to properly heal. And this, I think, is probably a lot on parents of teens. Do not push them to be back out there. Do not allow them to be back out there, even if they're saying, I can do it, like, tears, like, Mom, I can go back out. I promise. I just want to play with my team. Like, you definitely have to work hand in hand with a doctor and make them have that rest time, because that can injure you for the rest of your life and prevent any further you want to go in the sport could be ended because you didn't take the time as a middle schooler or high schooler to correctly rehabilitate that injury. So it stinks, but give yourself time to rest for sure.
It's so true. And I think, you always hear the adage, you'll come back stronger. And that's actually true in a lot of cases. If you take the time to rest and to heal, you can come back a lot stronger.
Yeah. I'll say my worst injury that is totally random. So during a college game, I went up for a header and a girl did too. And she brought her knee up and it hit me in the ribs. And so I fell down, just kind of knocked the wind out of me, but had to come out, of course. I just kind of felt like I had a sharp running pain. And you have to go to the doctor. It's like protocol. You have to go to the doctor. And I wasn't even military affiliated yet, but I'm like, they're just going to give me ibuprofen and tell me to go home. So again, foreshadowing, right? So I should have known so I go because I have to. But lo and behold, my liver was lacerated. So it had a cut on my liver from the impact. And so I had to stay in the hospital for a week. I couldn't eat anything because if I had to go into surgery, then it would have to be immediately. So it was totally crazy. But I was out for the season. I had to deal with going to the games, but not playing. It's total, no matter what age you are, I think it's a mindset thing that parents of teens especially will have to work with them to help them keep a positive mindset and work on things they can do while they're being injured, while they're resting. So whether that's watching film, watching live game, pros play, something like that, to kind of stay in the game.
Yeah, I had a really bad injury my senior year of college in diving. I lacerated a tendon in my foot and had to have surgery, and I was out for a few months. And I had no affiliation with the military, but I had read something in high school about a POW who spent his time as a POW playing rounds of golf. And that's how he spent his time. And when he got out of being a POW, he went and played a round of golf, and it was the best round of golf he'd ever had. And so I spent those couple of months, I still had to go to practice, but I couldn't get in the water. I couldn't get on the diving board. And I spent those months going through every single dive in my head over and over again. And I came back at the best year of my life, the best season of my life, because it really is. It's mind over matter, especially with an injury.
Yeah.
Speaking of mind over matter, nice little transition there. What's the best piece of PCS advice you can give families?
Good luck. No, I'm kidding.
Too bad for you.
Oh, good gracious. So one little tip that I didn't know until I think the last few years. So those little gel packs that you get like in shoes or something like that. So you can actually buy, you can buy those from Amazon. And so put those in your bins, like in the boxes you pack, because those help absorb the moisture. So you don't have all that like moldy, mildewy smell once you finally get your stuff. So that's definitely one hack I found out within the last few years that I've used.
I love it.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. I think we are almost ready to send our names to our wheel of names and draw some winners. I do want to address some audience questions here. Amy, there are a lot of people who are sad that there is not a Tiny Troops near them. And I know, like everyone else, you had to adjust and pivot during the pandemic. So is there any type of virtual element to Tiny Troops, or someone's asking about an at-home kit? Is there some way to participate if there's not a Tiny Troops near you?
Yeah, Renee, thanks for asking that. So every Friday, our coach trainer or director of coaching, Annie, is live on our page. She does an at-home activity. So whether it's soccer related or not, we always have things you can do at home with things you have in your house for your whole family. So that's on every Friday. And then she does do a live soccer session every Friday. That's free, that you can jump on and have your kiddo do. You could set the iPad outside. You could do it in your living room, whatever it is. And we do have a play at home kit. I'm glad you asked that. So we do have play at home kits that come with a lot of different equipment. And also, most importantly, I think a games sheet of ideas of things that you can do with your kiddos with all of those things. A lot of them can be self-led, which is also nice, right? Give mom and dad a little break. So sometimes I just have mine laying out and I'll see my kiddos take the things and start doing it themselves because we've done it a few times. I'm like, yes, this is great, right? So we do have a play at home kit. We don't have it on our website yet. We just have our brand new website the last couple of weeks, but it is available if you want to send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, or if you want to shoot us an email, info@tinytroops. And I can also try to get you guys the link. We have it through PayPal, so I can send a link or put it in the comments when we're done here.
Awesome. I think we have one more question. It is amazing, Amy. 49 minutes and 27 seconds just flies by with you.
Oh, man, yeah.
So one more question from April. Any words of wisdom to help my middle school athlete who says, Mom, our teams are never going to be good because we haven't been together for years like all the local teams we compete against?
Man, that is a hard one. My son also goes through that. So all you can really say, April, is that encourage him to do the best he can and to be the best teammate he can to help the team. So do his own practices, work on his skill, and so that he can be a proponent in making the team better. Unfortunately, this again is one of those things that he's not incorrect with that. You know, you are at a disadvantage because a lot of these teams have played together, like I mentioned earlier, for a long time. And once you get that cohesion and, you know, you just click better, that is true. But just encourage him to be the best player he can be, whether that's putting in extra practices, just doing drills at home, and then encourage him to be the best teammate he can be too. And that's all he can do, right? The rest of it is out of his control.
And I think, especially if you're on a team that continually loses over and over and over again, it's so demoralizing. But you have to look for your own victories of, what did I do really well today? What assists can I count? You know, what did my teammates do really well? Finding those little things that have to be the victories when the scoreboard doesn't reflect that, for sure. All right. It's the best time of year. It is time for dun, 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 Wheel of Names, which I always sing a little song while I'm stalling, trying to share my screen. There we go. Is it up, Lizanne?
Yep, I see it.
We're giving away 3 prizes. The first one goes to Yes. Oh, sorry.
Oh no.
All right. First one.
Liz.
All right. Second one. That was such a tease. Sorry about that,
That
Sarah.
was.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Whoa. One screen. There it
Here we
is.
go. Try it again.
All right, and you are winning 1 month of Tiny Troop Soccer and a copy of Amy's book for military kids.
All right, Renee.
Congratulations.
And one more. Let's see if it stays on the screen. So exciting. And just a reminder to all of our winners, please message the Facebook page so we can get your address and send you all the things you need to get. And our last winner, Crystal Love. Amazing.
Yeah, and I want to say, if you are not located near a Tiny Troops location, let me know and I'll get you a play at home pack instead.
Awesome.
Love
Oh, which Renee was asking about. So what a win for her. Well, Amy, we cannot thank you enough for being on the show today. And thank you to all of our listeners and commenters. Also, please feel free to continue to ask questions and comment after the show ends. We always go back and check those. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your enthusiasm around sports and just being an awesome human being. It's always fun.
I just wanted to share this final funny comment from Sarah that apparently a 3-year-old starts correcting your form when you're practicing with them at home. So,
And
no
I'll
kicking
say
with
that
your big
comes, sorry, Lizanne, that comes from because we say, oh no, big toe. And so her little one says,
I love
oh no, big toe, because you don't use your big toe to kick the ball.
So cool. Well, you have been so fun, Amy. Thank you for sharing all your passion and all your enthusiasm this week. I want to invite you all back next week. We are continuing our month of the military child celebration, talking more about our military kids. And next week's topic will be specifically PCSing with kids. Our expert is Michelle Bowler, also known as the Waiting Warrior. You might know her from Instagram. She has 4 kids and lots of PCSing experience. So please bring all your questions. Can't wait to hear all of her tips. And we will see you guys back here next week. Thanks again so much to Amy. Until next time, this too shall PCS.